This segment of the Alice Stewart Show is brought to you by Aero Plumbing. For all your household or business plumbing needs, call Aero Plumbing at 1-866-PLUMBER or schedule an appointment online at aeroplumbing.net.
And we're back on the Alice Stewart Show, 7:35 on what's turning out to be a beautiful Wednesday morning. Joining me in studio this morning, Congressman Steve Womack. He'll be taking your calls in about 10 minutes at 7:45. So if you have a question for the congressman, get your phones ready. We'll be taking calls shortly, and we'll give out that number before the next commercial break. Congressman, it's been great to have you here.
Oh, it's fun.
And you, of course, this
brings back old times.
Yes, you do great. Well, we talked quite a bit about foreign policy, which is something that's really on the front burner these days, and the threat of ISIS and the growing threat of ISIS. And Congressman Duncan Hunter from California was on Fox News last night, and he talked about ISIS and what a threat it is. And he says one of the key ways to prevent these terrorists from entering the U.S. or from continuing their behavior, he says we need to look at more along the lines of immigration and stop Middle Eastern immigration. Here's Congressman Hunter. I want to get your thoughts.
The only threat that lies with them is if they can get people back in the United States to do harm to us here and commit acts of terror. That's why it's more important than ever that you secure the southern border, one, and start denying visas in totality to people from the Middle East, from this area, unless they're, for instance, persecuted Christians, and we'll allow them in.
And that's the concern, in that we hear about ISIS and their activity and beheading of journalists and all this going on overseas. But there's the concern it will be on our land soon.
Well, they want to come here. They want to get here because ultimately we're the big Satan. Okay, we're the United States of America. What we stand for, the freedoms, the opportunities that we provide our people, is the big target for people like ISIS. Okay, so what Duncan says is right, but remember what General Petraeus said.
Right.
One of the big concerns is not necessarily. I'm not discounting what Duncan said about people crossing our southern border, because that's a clear and present danger too. If you know you can infiltrate this country undetected by crossing the border, our southern border, and it's a porous border, we all know that, that's a problem. But General Petraeus said, remember, these are people that hold U.S. passports. These are people protected by the provisions of our Constitution. And so they know that they have these protections and can come freely into and out of this country. And so from both standpoints, we have problems. But that southern border is a whole nother issue that's been in the news because of the undocumented minors that have been infiltrating our country by the tens of thousands. And it just highlights the fact that we've got our work cut out for us to secure the southern border so that we can set the stage for a great debate and reforms on immigration.
And that's something that is simmering out there, and it's not just a concern, as we've said, the tens of thousands coming into this country for safe haven. It's the terrorists that come in here that we need to...
Sex traffickers, drug traffickers, right. Terrorists. These are all people with not too charitable objectives that are coming into our country. And look, I get it. There's a lot of people trying to come into our country just to make for a better life for themselves. But at the end of the day, we've also got a fair amount of a percentage of these people that are coming in here with the express purpose of doing harm to our country.
No doubt. And you certainly are very well versed on the foreign policy issues, given your military background. You also want to switch to a domestic issue here that is a top concern. You're on the Appropriations Committee, and there's a budget out there, despite what some say.
Yep, we have a budget.
Yeah, we have a budget. The question for you, being on the Appropriations Committee, do we have money for the budget?
Okay, we have a budget. We passed the Ryan Murray budget deal that set the spending caps for 14 and 15. 15 ends on the 30th of September. And Alice, our committee, the committee on which I serve, the House Appropriations Committee, has indeed passed on the floor of the House 7 of the 12 appropriations bills. We have others teed up. We only have one that has not been marked up in committee, the Labor, Health, and Human Services bill. The Senate, zero, nada, nothing. The Senate has not passed an appropriations bill, none of the 12, for this next fiscal year. So here we are, almost 30 days out from the beginning of a new fiscal year. So my friends listening, if you want to know why we continue to run our country on very, very inefficient, very expensive continuing resolutions. That's status quo spending. If you want to know how we do that, let me just reemphasize. The House has passed 7 appropriations measures on the floor for FY15, and the Senate has produced nothing.
Well, that's not what you hear from Democrats. President Obama does not say that, and that's important.
And it's because they know that the bias of the House Republicans has been to reduce discretionary spending, and we've done a very good job of doing that. The president, in order to keep his spending measures in place, wants to operate off the status quo. So he doesn't want to see appropriations measures completed. So he's got communication with Harry Reid. Harry Reid has the single opportunity to either fix this or continue the status quo piece that we're dealing with right now, and that's exactly why we're in the pickle we're in. And so I just got to tell you, if you've got a budget and we've got spending caps, we've agreed to the spending caps, but if you've got a process that our framers put in place that provides for how you, in regular order, produce appropriations bills, and if you disagree on them, go to conference and come out with an agreement. But that's not how this Congress works, and I'm going to put a lot of the blame right at the feet of Senator Harry Reid, the majority leader in the U.S. Senate. And that's why this election is going to be very important.
Absolutely. He's got, more than 300 bills sitting on his desk. And
350, something like that.
350.
Yep.
Who's counting? All right, we're going to take a break, and I appreciate your thoughts on appropriations. I know that's something that's takes up a lot of your time up there. We'll take a break. If you have a question for Congressman Steve Womack, he's going to be here till the top of the hour answering your questions. The number, 501-823-0965. 501-823-0965. And Congressman will take your questions, whatever you have on your mind. This segment of the Alice Stewart Show brought to you by Arrow Plumbing. For all of your household or business plumbing needs, call Arrow Plumbing at 1-866-PLUMBER, or you can schedule an appointment online at arrowplumbing.net.